All right. Yeah, good to be back here with this opportunity to talk about something not really related to what Balsamic makes as a tool, but we're also a very small company. We're all very close, and we're all remote. I've been here for about 10 years, and one of my interests is company culture, and so I really like having these opportunities to talk about something outside of what I normally talk about at work. So this talk is about normalizing talking about therapy at work. But I want to state up front that this is really about normalizing the conversation about mental health care. It's not about anything related to improving access to mental health care. That's an entirely separate challenge and one that I'm not really qualified to talk about. So I just wanted to say that up front. Also, the lessons in this talk are really about subtle changes that you can make or that we made at work. So don't get your hopes up too high. My hope, in fact, is that some of these things that you're already doing at work. But just in case you're not, I'll tell you a little bit about an interesting development and experience that I've observed in my time at Balsamic over the last few years. So to start, recently at one-on-one with my manager, I was talking to her about the effects, both positive and negative, of switching to a new antidepressant medication. And it wasn't at all awkward or uncomfortable, just kind of matter of fact. And the reason why I felt comfortable with that is that employees at our company had kind of been laying the foundation for normalizing these sorts of conversations, about discussing mental health and treating it over the last few years. And it happened very slowly and subtly. But when I took a step back, I kind of saw how this developed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I think probably most of us can agree that talking about healthcare at work is tricky, to put it mildly. You don't know how people are going to react. You don't know what the rules are around it. But obviously, our mental well-being has a huge impact on our jobs, and our jobs have a huge impact on our well-being. And I think a lot of us can agree that it's really past time to break the taboo around therapy and medications, but we don't want it to become a distraction. We don't want people to be gossiping about it or, getting into that, TMI zone of like, okay, I don't really want to know about that, and, when I started my career a long time ago, I never thought I'd be talking about any of this stuff at work. So, obviously it's still something uh, that's a bit of a challenge. And I really kind of stumbled into this particular topic kind of accidentally. I'm not some huge out there evangelist for therapy. I've seen a therapist for a long time, been on medication for a long time, but I'm not someone going around telling everybody about it. Um, but really what happened is a few years ago, I was inspired by one of my younger coworkers at Balsamic, and maybe it's just a generational thing or something about her, but it kind of I had this realization about it, and I started to see that we had started talking about it more. So really, this talk is kind of an appreciation of her as well as some of the other coworkers who have been really brave about opening up about their mental health journeys and struggles. So I call these four sneaky steps to normalize talking about therapy at work. And the reason why I call them sneaky, at least the first two steps, is because they take advantage of people's discomfort talking about it. The taboo around it can actually be an opportunity. In fact, the first sneaky step to talking about therapy doesn't involve talking about it at all. And let me explain what that means. So this was my big revelation that my coworker did. I noticed that she started putting her online therapy appointments on her work calendar, which is something that everybody in the company can see. And I don't think she really thought much about it. But I had this realization, wow, that's really clever, because you're putting this on, putting this out there somewhere where everybody at work can see it, but not in a place where discussion happens. It's very unlikely that anybody is going to say anything about it, because it's just on your calendar. It actually requires work to go out of your way to comment on it. Um, and my guess is that if your boss or coworkers see this, either they won't think much of it, or at a minimum, they'll maybe be a little uncomfortable and won't talk to you about it because of that. So that's a good thing, So that really that's an opening, And so just thinking about that, what has occurred as a result of this, you've set a precedent, very in a very subtle way that it's okay to take time out of work to go to therapy, whether that's on video or in person. You're basically saying by putting this on your calendar, you're saying it's the same as taking an hour out of your day to go to the dentist or the doctor. Not a big deal. It's just another form of healthcare. And that's a hard thing to disagree with. So that's kind of it's also a very bold statement, like, hey, this is something I'm doing, and it's just normal. And you're doing it in this kind of safe way that makes it difficult for people to kind of push back on or comment on. And so step two is kind of building on that. It's kind of a small step that just opens that door a little bit wider. I don't know about where you work, but we use Slack, and we have a channel where people will say when they're going away from the computer, I'm going to lunch, I have to take my car in, that sort of thing. And then I started to notice, and this built over time, that people would just say that they were held, they had their therapy appointment, either, oh, I'm going out for therapy now, or they put it on their agenda for the day. And so this is kind of similar to the first one with the calendar appointment, but it's a little more open to feedback and commenting. It feels a little bit more vulnerable just to write in a message, okay, heading out to my therapy appointment back in an hour. What if somebody gives you a weird emoji reaction that you don't know what it means, or maybe they reply to it, they certainly could. But again, my guess is that they won't. And again, it sets that precedent that, hey, it's okay to do this. And that's really actually a big win. You started that process of making it a normal thing to be talking about therapy in some way at work. And maybe after these two steps, you kind of just keep doing this for a while and kind of wait and see what happens. At least this in itself is progress. But if you want to go a little bit further, this one is a little bit more of a leap. So basically, it's just kind of taking another step that feels a little bit uncomfortable, but also not too uncomfortable. So, I describe this as just taking a calculated risk. And this could mean a lot of things. This could be done in a lot of ways. Some examples that I've seen in our company, going back to the beginning when I was talking about my conversation with my manager, one thing you could do is just find somebody at your company that you feel a little bit comfortable with, or you have a good relationship with them, and just try inserting a conversation about, therapy or medication or whatever, into one of your chats, and, and see how it goes. Maybe you'll have a really good result, and maybe they'll open up as well, or they'll turn out to be a really good listener or help you in some way, So don't do this if you're not ready, but, maybe try it out if you feel like it's, a safe idea. Another thing is that in our Slack group, we now have a mental health channel in our Slack. I don't remember who started it, but so we just share links that we find, or maybe short stories from our own experiences, and it's opt-in. Not everybody in the company is in it, but everybody who is really supportive, and we haven't had any issues with it. It's kind of a small thing, but it also sends that message that, hey, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have a Slack channel about this, just like you might have one about physical health or getting in shape or hobbies. It's that kind of level of like normal. And like I said, there's lots of other ways to do this, and to kind of take this next step. And if you get to this point, and stop and don't even go any further, that's great. It's still a win. You've still kind of set those precedents that, hey, this is a normal thing and it's okay to talk about it. But if you want to go to the last step, it's kind of taking a bigger step, and if you've made it this far and feel good so far about what's happened, then you can think about really putting something out there, and really do it with pride. And the more you convey that this is important and necessary, the more you'll be able to normalize it and maybe persuade those who might be on the fence. So for example, this image on the right is from a slide deck about a presentation that I gave to the whole company at our monthly all hands meeting. And it was about a mental health journey that I had been on. It was very personal, and I was really nervous about it, but I'm glad I did it. And this wasn't even the first all hands presentation that we've had where that touched on mental health. But it doesn't have to be a presentation to your company. Maybe it's talking to HR about starting some mental health programs, like having mental health days or leaves of absence, even, or advocating for benefits to access to online mental health tools, or something like that. Or maybe it's starting a little mental health, group. Or even better, maybe somebody else will do something like this now that you've taken those first three steps. Maybe it'll kind of empower or inspire somebody else to take this big next step to kind of put themselves out there and show how this is a normal thing, and it's not something that should be taboo or avoided at all costs. I mean, wouldn't that be pretty cool if that's how you know that it's really working, if other people kind of take up this cause as well. So that's it. It's just four kind of very simple steps, but that all kind of add up. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe, hopefully, you already do some of this at your job. But if I think back to, say, 10 years ago, I would have been really uncomfortable even contemplating any of this. And so I guess I just wanted to close by saying, a lot of things might seem like they're heading in the wrong direction in the world, but I would say that, talking about and normalizing mental health discussions and mental health care is becoming a lot more normal. And I'm really happy about that. And I think that, all of us can try to see if we can make a little progress by normalizing that in our day-to-day work environments as well. So that's all. Thank you.